Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for being here with us. In the quiet stillness of a studio, there are moments when something is communicated before any words are spoken. It is not loud, not dramatic, but it carries a kind of clarity that makes people pause without fully understanding why. On one such occasion, a conversation unfolded that did not feel like a typical interview. It began with the familiar setting, host, a guest, and microphone, and the expectation of dialogue, but what followed moved in a different direction, a shift that was subtle at first, almost noticeable, yet impossible to ignore once it settled in. A moment where listening became more important than speaking, a realization that formed without being announced, and a response that would later for a beyond that room. Across from each other sat Fujikaze and Zan Lui, both familiar with the structure of interview, both experienced in translating music into conversation, but this time something about the exchange felt different. It did not follow the usual rhythm it did not follow the usual rhythm of question and answer. Instead, it moved more slowly, leaving space between thoughts, allowing silence to exist without being filled too quickly. At the beginning, the difference was almost invisible. The question was simple, the response even simpler. There was no rush to explain everything, no urgency to present a complete narrative, and yet the lack of urgency began to create its own kind of depth. Words were chosen carefully, sometimes even more incomplete, as if the meaning did not need to be fully spoken to be understood. As the conversation continued, the atmosphere began to shift, not dramatically but enough to change how it felt to listen. The focus moved away from analysis and toward presence. It was no longer about breaking down the music into parts or explaining its structure. Instead, it became about experiencing it even within the act of talking about it. This is where the first thread began to reveal itself. The power of what was being said did not come from how much was explained, but from how much was left open. But not defining everything, the conversation allowed something more personal to emerge. It invited the listener to feel rather than to conclude. As time passed, another subtle change took place. It appeared in the way Zone Louis responded not just with but with attention. His role as an interviewer began to soften. This usual distance between host and guest became less clear. Instead of guiding the conversation towards specific point, he seemed to follow it, allowing it to unfold naturally. This shift marked a second thread, the framework of evaluation, something built over years of experience, slowly stepped aside. In its place came a different kind of listening, one that did not rely on comparison and categorization, on one that accepted the moment as it was without needing to define it immediately. That change is not easy. Letting go to structure, even briefly, required a kind of structure, but within this exchange, it happened almost effortlessly. The conversation did not lose direction, it simply found a different path, one that felt intuitive than planned. As the dialogue moved toward its later moment, the third element began to form. It was not something that could be pointed to directly, but it could be felt. A sense that what was happening would not remain, a sense that would not remain limited to that room, that it would stay with those who experienced it, not because of any single statement but because of the atmosphere it created. This is where all three threads begin to connect. The openness created by saying less, the shift from analysis to present, and the lasting impression that form when something is felt rather than fully explained. Together they create something that goes beyond a standard interview. When people later spoke about this moment, they often focus on that praise itself, the words that were said, the recognition that was given. But the deeper reason it mattered was not in the statement alone. It was in the way that statement came into being. It was shaped by the experience of listening without expectation, by allowing music to exist without immediate interpretation. In the end, what remained is not a summary of what was discussed, but a feeling of having witnessed something genuine, a conversation that did not try to control its outcome, a moment that where music guided the dialogue rather than the other way ground. And perhaps that is why it continued to resonate, because it reminded us that not everything meaningful need to be fully explained. Something are understood in quieter way, not through definition, not through presence, not through conclusion, but through experience. What began as a simple interview became something else entirely, not because it was planned that way, but because both people in that room allowed it to happen, and in doing so, they revealed something that often goes unnoticed. That sometimes the most powerful thing that we can do this is simply listen and allow meaning to unfold on its own. Thank you for watching the video. For getting more updates, press the bell icon and hit the subscribe button. Thank you.